Alright, well this video I'm going to show you how to add callouts to your elevations. So I'm currently in the Annotate tab, and callouts are located right here in the Leaders panel, and they actually call it multi-leader in AutoCAD world. So I'm in the ID template, and I already have all of my callout styles organized and created. So just to show you what that looks like, it's all right here. So each of these styles has different sizes to accommodate for when it gets scaled in the viewport. It helps me keep my text the same size no matter what my drawings are scaled as in Paperspace. So I'm actually going to do a separate video for you guys to show you how to set up dimensions and callouts so that you can have styles that are easy for you to use like they are for my students in the ID template. So in the meantime, I'm just going to show you how to use the styles in the ID template to place your callouts. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you're on the correct layer. Right now I have A Anno Elev, so that just means it's annotation for elevations, and that's perfect. So I'm going to go back to the Annotate tab, make sure that 1/4 is selected right here because these elevations are going to be scaled in Paperspace at 1/4 inch equals 1 foot. Multi-leader is what I'm going to choose, and it's important to know that the first click that you do is going to place the arrow. So I'm going to call out this soffit. Click. And then the second click is going to be to drop the elbow of the callout leader. So the elbow, let me just click, is this. It looks just like an elbow. It kind of bends a little bit, and then your text gets placed right next to it. So this is a soffit. My goal is to keep the elbow away from the very last dimension a little bit so that it's easy to recognize that it's part of the callout and not part of the dimension. And notice that my arrow is pointing inside the soffit. I'm not a big fan of it pointing, like for instance, on the outside, like on the perimeter of the soffit. It can get a little confusing for some people, so I point to the inside of the object. Now the goal for callouts is to keep them nice and aligned. You got to put your OCD hat on a little bit, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going to come over and I'm going to copy, and I'm just going to choose the base point off just to show you how this works. So the one thing that you don't want to do is this. See how this line goes through the dimension numbers? Don't do that. We need to keep these numbers of the dimension readable, so never have a line go through them. Always move your callouts around the dimension numbers. Now it's okay if it goes through the tick mark like you see here. There's nothing wrong with that, just don't go through the number. Our goal with callouts is to call out what all of the objects that you see in this elevation are. So for instance, I am going to make this one, I'm going to point out the shelf in the cabinet. So I'm going to make sure that my arrow is pointing at the shelf, and then I'm going to call it adjustable shelf. I'm using the acronym for adjustable to keep it nice and short. You don't want really long callouts going all the way out as much as possible. The next one I'm going to do is I'm just going to call out the cabinet itself. These are upper cabinets. And when I'm doing this, I pretend like I'm explaining this elevation to a 3-year-old. And actually, I could probably put S on the end. I don't think it matters. Now I don't need to call out the door swings. It's not important for the installer to know what that is. They can read, for the most part, that stuff. And honestly, I probably didn't even have to do the adjustable shelf, but I'm just trying to be kind. I'm trying to make sure that all of my bases are counted, my ducks are in a row. There's no question about what's happening. The next one I'm going to add, I'm just going to point out the wall. So sometimes you might have tile here, sometimes it's painted chipboard. So that's what I'm going to just indicate. Painted wall. The next one, you just kind of move your way down. Oh, I'm getting kind of close on this one, but that's okay. We can extend this arrow out so that's pointing at that backsplash. And remember that we didn't dimension the backsplash, and the reason why is because it was too small to really add a dimension. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call out the size in the call out. So 4-inch backsplash. That is exactly what you need to do. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to point at the cabinet, and these are base cabinets. And since I did the shelf in the wall cabinets, I'm going to do the shelf down here. Consistency is always good. I always try to point at a dashed portion of the line instead of a gap in the dash. These are built-in shelves in the base cabinets. They're typically not adjustable. The next thing that I need to point out is the toe kick. I'm just going to move it from that a little bit. I like to try and give those numbers as much space as possible. Just try to center this a little bit better. There we go. And again, we didn't dimension these with a dimension, so I'm going to call out that it's a 4-inch toe kick. Now, what I don't want to see you guys do is something like where you're pointing things out on the left side and you're calling it out on the right side. This does not do anybody any justice. So make sure that you divide your elevation in half, and whatever's on the right side gets called out on the right side, and whatever's on the left side gets called out on the left side. Now this window is smack dab in the middle, so that makes it a little hard to call out because I would be going over a lot of the elevation no matter what. So in this one instance, it's okay to place a call out above and point below. And if you want to give the dimensions of the window, you can, but I'm just going to call out window. Alright, so then what I have to do is I have to come on the left side and be like, okay, is there anything I need to call out that's different from over on the right side? And yes, there are a couple things that are different. So this is a desk, not cabinets, so I need to point that out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of these, it doesn't matter which one, and I'm going to mirror it to the other side. And it's really far out compared to the dimension, and the reason why is because there's an overall dimension over here, but there's not one needed over here. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to take this little grip at the elbow and I'm going to scooch it in a little bit so that it's a little closer. Whoops. Sometimes snap works against you, so you might need to zoom in a little bit to do that, but there we go. And then I'm going to move it down a little bit because we don't want to be calling something out here when it really should be down here. Adjust your arrow. So I'm going to first point out the actual desk countertop. And then I'm going to go right above it. Readjust the arrow to the 4-inch backsplash. Let's just go ahead and make sure that they know that that's what that's supposed to be. And there's two more things that we should call out. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to come out here and then I'm going to adjust the arrow and I'm going to try and get it to point into that filler, so just a little over the line. And I'm watching to make sure that I'm not crossing the arrow, so I'm actually going to give that a little bit more room by bringing the arrow down a little bit. I try not to crowd the lines and the arrows too much. And this is a 1/2-inch end panel filler. So what that means is that there's a filler on the front to make it look like the hardwood of the cabinets, but it's an end panel, so it has a side so that it covers the cabinet, and it's a finished side, so it looks really nice and pretty. Good stain, good quality clear coat. it's a little bit of a different type of filler. If you have a filler that's inside the cabinetry, like right here, then you would just call it a 1/2 inch filler. So whatever size your fillers are, make sure that you're calling them out. And then the last thing I just want to call out is I want to just let my contractor know that this is not a toe kick, this is actually wall base. So again, we did not dimension it with numbers, so I'm going to call it out. And there it is. So as you do callouts, start in one corner, work your way down, start in another corner, work your way down, look for anything that's different, and make sure that you try to call out everything that you can. Divide your elevation in half, and that will help you place the arrows. Make sure you catch those fillers, and anything else that needs to be explained, go ahead and explain it. It's not the end of the world if you didn't have the shelves in there. It's not the end of the world if you didn't catch everything, but really try your best to get everything accounted for when you're calling out. Now again, I don't have a video necessarily showing you how to set up your dimensions or callouts if you do not have the ID template. You can go to video 16 and that shows you the basic gist, but I do plan on doing a video in the future that will help those who don't have the ID template create dimension styles and callout styles that make your life a little bit easier.